Hello and welcome to another episode of Business His Way. Today we're going to be talking about guidelines to help us turn our failures into success. We've had two episodes where we talked about failures, and we talked about the things that make us fail in business, the issues that we need to be conscious about, and how to deal with those issues. Today we're going to look at some guidelines for turning our failures into success and look at the life stories of some people that history has recorded as men and women that have been able to turn what would have paralyzed some people for life in terms of ever being able to make anything of their life. And yet they have been able to emerge as all-time winners. All of these details is just to help you realize that failure is not an end in itself. It's the beginning of a story. It's how you end that story or what you take out of every failing situation that determines if you turn it into an interim stage or a final stage. Guidelines to turn our failures into success. Number one, let's appreciate the value of failure. You're wondering, how do you appreciate the value of failure? It depends on how you look at it. It's a function of your perspective. Do you look at a failing situation as an absolute? Or do you look at it in terms of the value that it brings to you, the lessons that it brings, the information that you can get from it, and what you can do with that information? John Maxwell says, and I quote, "Each time you fail, know that you've traveled another mile farther on the road to your potential." Because you have tried something, you've applied yourself to something. Even though the result that you got is contrary to what you expected, there's something you would have gained from that process, which will help you to further be able to achieve that which you seek. The founder of Honda Motors, Soichiro Honda, has this to say: "Many people dream of success. To me, success can be achieved only through repeated failure and introspection. In fact, success only represents 1% of your work that results from 90% of that which is called failure. Very few acquainted with failure will ever know the true joy of success." There are few times in your life that you do things one time and you get it right. Perfection comes from practice. A man that chooses to run a race would have tried that race and the time desired many times. If you run a race and you come forth and you're jubilating, someone else might consider it a failure. But if the last time you took that same race, you took part in that same race, you were fifth, then you've achieved success. Even though in the eyes of the beholder, it's a failure because you didn't get the medal. We can look at the lessons and the strength of every failure and take from it what we want and apply it on our way to succeeding. Number two, don't take failure personally. So one of the most destructive facts that makes people have a terminal end because of a failing experience is because they're not able to separate their person from the event. If I take an exam based on various factors or various situations, and I fail the exam at that point, it doesn't mean that I'm a dummy. It doesn't make me a dunce, doesn't make me stupid, doesn't mean that I'm a failure and I could never fail and I could never succeed. It means I failed that particular exam, but as a person, I have the ability to pass. What I need to do is to ask myself, did I study as hard as I should? Did I apply myself as well as I had the ability to? Did my teacher for that period do a good job of teaching me all the things that I needed to know? Was I actually prepared? Did I spend enough time preparing for the exam? I must find the basis for the failure. But as a person, I'm not a failure, because that same person, under different conditions and a different reapplication of myself, can succeed with the same exam. Not being able to separate the issues stops people from moving forward, because once you internalize the feeling of failure, it debars you from being able to make another attempt. And yet your success is based on your ability to try and try and try until you succeed. John Maxwell has this to say: there's a huge difference between saying I have failed and I am a failure. Someone who has failed can learn from her mistakes and move on. It doesn't change who she is. But the person who tells himself, I am a failure, gives himself little hope of improvement. No matter what he does or where he goes, his failure stays with him because he has internalized it. Deciding that you're a failure or saying that you have failed at a particular thing is what makes the difference between being able to apply yourself in a new situation. When you have concluded that you're a failure, what you say to yourself is, no matter what you do, you can't do it right. You can never succeed at it. Yet, all you need to do is to separate that particular failing and reapply yourself for other situations which you might be better at, and move on with your life. Number 3, let failure redirect you. If you keep hitting the wall, it may be time to back up and search for another door. If one door repeatedly closes on you, don't stand there forever wondering why you can't get it open. Look around for another door that is open. Sometimes the situations around us are directly speaking to us. Don't force a situation that has refused to move. Check for the options and check for the alternative and see what happens. Some people have sat at home and have done JAMB 6-7 times trying to get in for one particular course that has refused to get them in. If the course does not want you, pursue something else that you might want. And through that thing that you pursue, if that's where God wants you to get to, you might eventually get to where you're going. See, whatever your hand finds to do, the Bible says, do it well. Make time a constructive instrument and don't allow it to stand still for you. If you fail at barbing, then go after sewing. If you fail at one line, try another line. If you failed at doing it one way, try doing it another way. Sometimes you've applied to go to university and you haven't gotten in. Go on and apply for a polytechnic. Get the OND out of the way. Maybe after the OND you get in. If you still don't get in, go on and do the HND. When you finish the HND, go into the university and make another move or take a professional exam. There's more than one route to the same destination. Don't allow yourself to be tied down or bogged by seemingly failing situation. 4, keep a sense of humor. See, it's easy to laugh when everything is going on great, but it's important to laugh when things are going wrong in your life. The laughter will open your mind. It will keep you lighthearted and not block your thinking. And being able to laugh at yourself will make people laugh with you. because you make a joke of the situation. At this point, let me share the story of a particular young man with you. It's a story of persistence, because one of the things that will help you to beat failure is your ability to be persistent at certain things that you want to do in your life. Sometimes you need to do it over and over and over and over again in order to be able to achieve results. Dave Dawson's future looked bleak in 1974. Based on tests, his ninth grade teacher labeled him mentally retarded. In her words, and I quote, no, in Dawson's words, I apologize, and I quote, "My vocational expectation was to be a grocery store bagger." You know what that means? Someone in the grocery store that helps to pack the bags. When you finish your shopping, they put it all in a bag for you and help you to carry it to your car. In fact, he even took classes to learn the proper way to bag groceries. But today, he's the proud owner of a recently completed PhD from the University of Iowa College of Education. This was a guy that was totally declared as retarded. And all he expected to become was someone that was helping you to bag your grocery in a supermarket. And now he has a PhD. Dawson remembers his ongoing frustration with school. "I would fail no matter what I did. No matter how hard I studied, pouring salt on the wound, school officials posted failing students' names on the notice board and test scores every time. Dawson appeared regularly on the failures board. His frustration erupted in behavioral problems, like a lot of us. Because we want to be defensive, we think, well, nobody expects anything good of me. I'm a failure anyway, so it doesn't matter what I do. And then you just let your life go. You give up on yourself when all you need to do is to challenge the expectations of people and prove that you can do what you want to do. Seemingly unable to succeed academically like his classmates, Dawson turned the tables. "I would stand up and cheer when I got the lowest grade in the class." This was a guy that knew how to laugh, even in the worst situation. Everybody takes a bow for when they win, but he decided that every time he failed and got the lowest grade, he should laugh. And I'm sure that's part of the reason he was able to cross from being considered an academic retard to earn a PhD at the end of the day. Finally, they realized a psychiatrist diagnosed that he had a learning disability. So the reason he was failing was not because he didn't try, was not because he was a failure. It was because he did have a learning disability for which he needed help. And when that was discovered and he started seeking the kind of help that he needed to help him with his learning, the result is that he eventually was able to earn a PhD. The same guy that was written off and was not expected to be anything other than a grocery help ended up with a PhD. And now he's helping other people. He was responsible for raising a grant to set up a special center in this university to help people with learning disabilities to use technology to achieve their academic goals and dreams. That's a guy that would have wasted away, but yet he became an asset to his society. We can always turn our failings into success. Number 5, when you fail, ask why and not who. See, the general thing for man, starting from Adam and Eve, is to pass the buck. We always find somebody else to pass the blame on. For every failure in our life, if my mother had been there when she should have, I would have passed. If your mother isn't there, you are there now. Make the difference in your own life. If my father was not just a laborer and he had spent a bit more time, studying so that he would have succeeded and then would have been able to provide me a better environment, I would have become somebody. You can still become somebody. Now you're an adult. You're responsible for your own life. Forget the things of the past. Forget your father's own mistakes. Don't make his mistake your mistake. Make your life. Move away from blaming what has happened to you on somebody else. Oh, if it was not for that teacher that did not like my face, I'm sure I would have passed maths in school. No. If you worked hard enough, even if that teacher didn't like your face, if you did the right thing, the teacher would have to like you eventually because your paper will speak for you. If you worked hard, burning the midnight oil to excel in maths, the teacher would have no choice. And it's not that teacher that marked your WAEC exam. Somebody else that has never seen your face had to mark your exams. So don't pass the buck on. Don't ask why and not who. Some of the questions that you need to ask in analyzing failings in your life. I'll just go through some of them with you, so that you'll know that the next time that you fail, you should think about why you failed instead of who was at fault that made you fail. Ask yourself what lessons you've learned from the experience. Check if you are grateful for the experience. Ask yourself, am I grateful for this experience? How can I turn the failure into success? Practically speaking, where do I go from here? There's always a way from that point. Wherever point you are, there's a next step. There's a way to move forward from there. You've just got to be looking for it. Only those that seek find. Only those that knock have the door open to them. Only those that call on God for help can receive his help. Who else has failed in this way before? How can that person help me? Seek for counsel. Seek for help. Look for someone that's walked that same train before. Ask them to guide you. How can my experience help others someday to keep from failing? Sow a seed into somebody else's life. Share your experiences. Share what you've gone through to help other people to avoid the pitfalls of what has happened to you. You find that there's a lot of joy in knowing that something you went through is able to deliver another life. And it would help you yourself to feel a sense of value and develop a sense of self-worth and help you to move further in life. How did I fail because of another person, because of my situation, or because of myself? We have to learn to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we are the real reason. Either laziness, either lack of application, either lack of seriousness, either lack of focus, either because we have not done the things that we should do. Ask yourself honestly, and by answering the questions honestly, you're able to determine what the next step is. Did I actually fail, or did I fall short of some unrealistic high standard? Your inability to face your reality would debar you from being able to determine what's the right step to take to get to where you're going. Number 6, make failure a learning experience. Always look at the lessons in every failing situation, and you'll find that life will be a little different for you. Failure isn't failure, except if you don't learn from it. If you are not continually learning, you are going to make the same mistakes over and over again. It's okay if you fall down, as long as you learn something on your way to getting up. Don't let failure keep you down. The fact that you have been knocked down is interesting, but the length of time you remain down is the most important thing. Going down isn't the problem, but learning to get up and still winning the race is the key. Or after you have fallen down, using the falling down as an excuse to lose, so you can say, it's because I fell down. If I didn't fall down, I won that race. Why don't you get up and still run the race? It's even more glorious to have fallen down, gotten up, and be able to breast the tape Even if you don't breast the tape, if you fall down, you get up and you fight for the race and you come out third, everybody will leave wondering what you would have done if you hadn't fallen down at all. And that gives you a chance and another day to come back and fight and win. When you fall, make the best of it and get back on your feet. Learn what you can from your mistake and get back in the game. Failure is the opportunity to begin again, more intelligently though. That's what Henry Ford said. Use failure as a gauge for your growth. The editors of Fortune magazine came back with a report from their survey that after analyzing a large number of successful people, they found out that most successful people failed an average of 7 times before they succeeded. What does that mean? It's not possible to succeed in life if you've never failed. Close, I'm going to run through a record of a number of people that are considered successes, but they came through failings to their success. Louis Pasteur was paralyzed when he found the cure for many diseases. He needed paralysis to push him to look for solution to curing other people, as situations are meant for a purpose. Franklin D. Roosevelt was stricken with infantile paralysis, but he grew up to become the President of America and led the country through World War II. Glenn Cunningham was burned so badly that his doctor said he will never walk again. Yet in 1934, he became the first human being to run the mile in less than 4 minutes, setting a world record. Beethoven, the world-renowned composer, was a deaf man. I mean, can you imagine? How did a deaf man compose all-time classical music that has lived forever? And as long as music is considered, Beethoven will always be considered as one of the greatest composers of all time. It's a miracle, but God is in the business of doing miracles with those that don't give up on themselves so that God can manifest. The Bible says that with the little things of this world, God will confound the wise. Thomas Edison, the inventor, he was deaf. Charles Dickens, one of the finest writers the world has ever known, was lame and couldn't walk. I mean, just imagine how many of your literature books were written by him. Albert Einstein was told by one of his teachers that he will never amount to anything. He was expelled from school because he was so slow, in quotes. Imagine what would have happened if that young student that had let that teacher's foolish opinion get inside of him. We would have been denied of one of the world's greatest geniuses today. I'd have failed, but so what? Get up and get moving. And the story, it could be your name on that list tomorrow. Talking about the failings and rounding up with your success. It's not over till it's over. Failure is only a step or a middle way in the journey to your success. Go and succeed.